Mis- I'm, that's consent. I'm sorry, you're good. Ms. Kim, you're next. Item number 8, AB 1718. Whenever you're ready to begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm pleased to present AB 1718, and I'd like to start by saying that this bill would not entirely remove sentences from jail to state prison for elder financial abuse. Rather, it brings back prison as an option. AB 1718 reestablishes judicial discretion in whether a felon convicted of financial elder abuse should serve time in state prison. Current law does not adequately protect the elderly against financial abuse. Financial elder abuse remains rampant, is largely invisible, and is largely expensive. It is estimated that 1 in 5 Americans aged 65 and over have been victimized. It's easy to see the elderly are prime targets, and here are the reasons. The elderly control 70% of the nation's wealth that has been earned over a lifetime of hard work and scrupulous savings. Technological advancements today have complicated finances, clouding the value of their assets and leaving the elderly to lean on others. The boomer generation also intensifies this problem. An estimated 19 million Americans will be 85 years older by the year 2050, which is about 20% of the United States population. Given these statistics, it is imperative to work even harder to protect this vulnerable population. AB 1718 strengthens protections granted to seniors against financial abuse by giving judges the option to sentence criminals to state prison. This judicial discretion deters criminals and would have a negligent impact on the prison population. So with me today is Krista Chalameros. She's the Executive Director for Senior Advocacy Services from Sonoma County. She's a long-term care ombudsman program coordinator and vice president of the California Long-Term Care Ombudsman Association.
Thank you.
Krista?
Hi.
Hi.
So as you're probably familiar, ombudsmen are the state-mandated investigators of elder abuse. So in today's society, seniors are victimized by financial fraud at an unprecedented rate. According to a TrueLink study in 2015, seniors lose $36.48 billion to financial elder abuse. As a consequence, 954,000 seniors are skipping meals as a result of financial abuse. This is an expensive crime for society when the financial resources are depleted and the senior must rely on community resources. The intent of 1718 is to help stem the tide of increasing financial abuse by providing a more impactful tool for the judicial system to utilize during criminal prosecution. The goal of a prosecutor is always to make the victim financially whole again. Should a judge have an ability to impose prison rather than local jail time, the criminal is more incentivized to fulfill the restitution obligation. The reality of the judicial system as it exists today does not support the victim. In an elder financial abuse crime, the criminal is convicted, the criminal is sentenced to local jail time, and then the sentence is conducted as a split sentence, which means they serve a portion of their time in local county jail, and the balance is mandatory supervised probation. However, it doesn't really work like that. The local sheriff has the full authority to release a nonviolent criminal due to overcrowding. It's not unusual for 368 criminals to see little to no jail time. The fact that there's little or no consequence for victimizing a senior does not encourage the criminal to fulfill the restitution requirement. As an example of a recent case, we had an individual who was served, she was on her second conviction. She was sentenced to 6 years in jail. She was to serve 2 in, 4 with the supervised probation. Because the jails were full, she literally served less than 6 months. No restitution's been paid. I personally was a party to a case of the attorney was named Kathleen Murray, and she was an elder. She was an attorney that specialized in elders. Kathleen systematically robbed a resident of a long-term care skilled nursing facility from every dime to his name. She didn't enroll him in Medi-Cal after she had taken all his money, because if she would have, then his pension of $2,800 a month would have not gone for her bill anymore. She cashed in his burial policy, she sold his home and all his personal belongings. She then used the money to purchase spa vacations in Santa Barbara. She landscaped her home, personal computer, all kinds of things. Her client was buried in a pauper's grave. Kathleen Murray never served 1 day in jail, and no restitution has ever been paid. You can correct this injustice by giving the judge discretion to impose a more impactful and appropriate penalty that suits the crime. Please help our judicial system to protect the assets of our seniors. I ask you to approve 1718.
Thank you very much. Are there any other witnesses in support?
Good morning. My name is Lisa Coleman. I'm with CALCOA, the California Long-Term Care Ombudsman Association. As Krista mentioned, the Ombudsman Program is the recipient of elder abuse investigations in long-term care licensed facilities in the state of California. And while it's our role through our unannounced frequent visits to deter crimes from occurring, when we do uncover crimes, when we do participate in these investigations, it is heartful to know that we're not going to be seeing these same bad characters again and again in other facilities. So we ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Khalif Asagai on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association in respectful opposition to this measure. With the current prison overcrowding crisis as well as local jail overcrowding, we don't see that this bill will actually have a deterrent effect or end up incarcerating more people in a way that's going to help to alleviate this particular problem. Right now, we don't see a deficiency in current law, and we don't think that additional sentencing is going to have any type of impact on people's decisions, making these decisions. Furthermore, incarcerating people closer to home will give them greater opportunity to engage in the community and get back to restitution. So we don't see that this will have any appreciable impact. We ask for your no vote.
Micah Doctoroff on behalf of the ACLU of California, also in respectful opposition. I would echo my colleagues' comments and just elaborate a little bit more that when a person is incarcerated in county jail as provided by the current law, that person remains closer to home. And consistent with the aims of public safety realignment, there's a great body of research that shows that keeping prisoners closer to their homes, communities, and support networks enhances public safety. Incarcerated individuals who maintain contact with supportive family members have greater success after their release, including better employment outcomes and reduced drug use. Studies have shown that adults who have had more contact with their families while in prison are less likely to be arrested again or reincarcerated. When individuals are incarcerated in county jail, keeping them within their communities, their likelihood of maintaining ties with family is far greater than it would be if they were shipped off to prison. Most people in state prison are locked up over 100 miles from their families, and unsurprisingly, the farther prisoners are from their families and loved ones, the less likely they are to receive visits. With travel becoming much harder and more costly for visitors, particularly for low-income families. Without any indication that the existing penalties for the crimes named by this bill are insufficient, and with a wealth of information showing that keeping prisoners closer to their homes actually has a greater public safety benefit and may assist prisoners in paying restitution, we see no reason to change this bill or change the current law. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in opposition?
Good afternoon. Good morning. Richard Calhoun with CEDAR, CEDAR's Coalition of Elder Independent Adults. I'm here as a member of a family that lost $1 million. You're talking about the tip of the iceberg here. You're talking about the people that are charged for criminal elder abuse. The vast majority of the victims never have that privilege because law enforcement says elder abuse is a civil matter. So we're in agreement that Penal Code 368 is flawed. We're in disagreement that this amendment helps. In fact, we would say this amendment makes it worse because this amendment makes financial elder abuse a crime you want to avoid. So what is the criminal going to do? He's going to steal the entire victim, which is what happened in our family. Take the victim and their estate, and that stays in county jail. So we're opposed to this. We passed out a 15-page paper. The first page is a simple adjustment. Put this to the physical abuse, the stealing of the elder. The second page is the key one. Right now in California, in law enforcement manuals, there is no reference to Penal Code 368. Make an amendment to this bill requiring there be a reference to Penal Code 368 when there is an elder abuse policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Phyllis Kalbach. My family has been a victim of elder abuse, kidnapping, and fraud, and everything that they did was really legal, and that's why we need stronger language in this bill. This bill is being ignored, and it will continue to be ignored until there is strong language that takes elder abuse out of the civil courts and puts it in criminal courts where it belongs. And also, the law enforcement all across this state must have this law in their manuals, and it must be discussed at the police academies. The social services must have this in their manuals, as well as all of the hospitals.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members? Yes, Mr. Oh, were you first? I'll start looking to my left more often.
So I regretfully will not be able to vote for your bill. I have a couple of concerns. One is we are still in the case that over 8,000 people are housed out of state because of the prison overcrowding problem. And I think that's something that this bill would certainly cause to become worse. Another thing about your bill is you said that it was an option to go to prison. Mm-hmm. Once they have a felony, they have to go to prison under your bill. So it's not really an option. It's the way your bill is written. Finally, if someone is locally in jail, they can actually do work in a county facility, and they can therefore it makes it easier for them to make restitution. So for that reason, I can't support your bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Kim, I wonder if you could address the comments of the last two witnesses who spoke in opposition to your bill. Would you address the comments that they made, please?
Sure. Thank you very much. And for those who spoke in support, I want to thank you. And for those who spoke in opposition, let me address some of those issues. I know one gentleman said this bill doesn't do much to, take care of the situation and doesn't make the financial, crimes a serious crime, but I beg to differ. Our bill aims to improve the protections against the elder financial abuse. We're talking about elder financial abuse, which, as we've seen today in today's testimony, it's truly rampant in California. We absolutely sympathize with all aspects of the elder abuse. There was a gentleman who spoke about this doesn't do much about, this shouldn't be punishable in the state prisons. Let me tell you, there are many nonviolent exemptions to realignment. For example, Penal Code Section 481.1 will send people to stay in prisons for simply bus ticket forgery. Also, Penal Code Section 514, which protects against embezzlement of public funds against, again, by imprisonment in state prisons. So how can we not feel the need to also protect the elderly against financial abuse? one gentleman from the public defenders also stated that this current law is sufficient as is, but current law does not adequately protect the elderly against financial abuse. As you know, many older adults with cognitive impairments are especially vulnerable. About 40% of assisted living residents have dementia. And scammers can still reach residents through phone calls, emails, mails, and so forth. So even more startling is that more than 90% of all reported elder abuse is committed by the seniors' own family members. Financial scams targeting seniors have become so prevalent. It's been called like the crime of the 21st century. And this is what the National Council on Aging is saying. So expanding judicial discretion to include prisons will deter criminals from targeting vulnerable senior citizens. I really think that we need to take care of it today. We are here to protect the victims.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. I'm struggling to understand why a bill that is about elder abuse, essentially in the financial sense, has turned into a great discussion about the more compassionate, humane treatment of prisoners, of people who commit those offenses. Because what I've heard from those who have spoken in opposition is about how it's better for inmates to be closer to their families and all the different ways that it's better for inmates. This bill is not about that. This bill is about the abuse that is taking place on our elderly community. And I think Ms. Kim made a very good point in that we do have a responsibility to protect the most vulnerable in our communities. I think we probably share that view. I don't dispute that, but I think the problem is in how we're approaching this situation. And I cannot disagree with you more in that we should be more cognizant of the needs of those who have committed these crimes than we are of the people who have been victims of them. So I will be supporting your bill, Ms. Kim. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Mr. Lackey.
Yeah, just real quickly. You know, in this horrific crime, the mindset of most, it was mentioned a little bit earlier, is that financial circumstances usually are referred to the civil courts. And the mindset is that the financial circumstances are to be handled through a civil process, when clearly I believe that the victim has the great potential to suffer criminal consequences because of the financial condition of many of our elderly people. This is a deeply troubling circumstance when they find themselves in a condition they feel when they've been taken advantage of and they have lost their ability to function financially. They become very desperate and often turn to suicide as their only outcome. And I think that should give us pause and help us understand the gravity of this circumstance. This is not just financial assets we're talking about. We're talking about someone's personal condition and emotional condition that we need to be very sensitive to. And I think that most of the opposition focuses on sympathy towards the perpetrator. And I think that that's clearly a consideration, but not the focus of our attention. And I think that this is a bill that sends the message that we're intolerant of this kind of behavior, and so that for that reason I'll be supporting it.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Mr. Lowe.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kim. Very much appreciated. I look at this issue as I served as a former commissioner on the Santa Clara County Senior Care Commission, and many of us have our senior scam stoppers in our districts. I get over 400 people coming to these functions every year, so we know it's a major issue. And particularly when you talked about a senior in assisted living with dementia, you were describing my grandmother also, and she has concerns with many of these issues. She isn't able to determine what's right from wrong. Registering and understanding the legislative intent that you have is duly noted. I don't think any of us want to continue to see what's occurring in our communities. Having said that, I think when we look at the totality, because emotionally, when you talk about these issues, I'm frustrated, and I'm upset, and I'm angry too. And I think the duty that I'm looking at also is the totality of what we have in our prison population and as it relates to public safety. And so, as we know, we're trying to reduce our state prison population at the same time. Are you able to help address this issue? And as we are looking at a state to reduce this prison population and focus on our jails imprisonment versus incarceration, are you able to have a better sense of that from as we look at it from the vantage point of reducing our prison population?
I think the intent of AB 109 really did not do service to our public. I mean, because of the overcrowding issue, we let our criminals go early and brought them back to our communities, your community, my community. In addition to that, we are adding more criminals into the county jail system instead of sending them to state prison. This doesn't add any more. I think it really solves that problem too. Let's put it this way. The statistics show that in 2010, which was pre-realignment, there were 99 admissions to prison for non-caretakers committed for older financial abuse, which is that Penal Code Section 368D, and 17 caretakers who were similarly convicted, which is Penal Code Section 368E. Now, there are over 400 felony offenses that are exempt. And they're exempt from realignment because they're classified as serious or violent felons or are offenses for which sex offender registration is required. Now, this is a serious crime. We are trying to send a message that abusing seniors with financial abuse is not going to be tolerated. Just this morning, earlier, the committee passed AB 1754. This is a bill that allows, granted it's in San Diego County only, the compensation for victims of older financial abuse from mental health and financial counseling. This shows a clear recognition that elder financial abuse is not a routine property crime. It can have devastating effects. We are trying to send a message by giving the judges the option to send them to state prison instead of county jail, that we're not going to do any more slap in the wrist and say, oh, you just did something bad. We're going to send you to your community, so we'll give you time. We're going to send them a strong message. This is a serious crime that is not going to be tolerated.
Okay. You finish? Any more questions? So thank you, Ms. Kim, for bringing this to the committee. I will tell you, to everyone on the committee, and I think I can speak for the witnesses, know that this is a serious crime. Know that this is something that we shouldn't take lightly. As you've noted, we've had bills beforehand that address some of the problems with elder abuse, and so here's why the recommendation from the chair is going to be a no. You're absolutely right. We have to work on the number of people that have gone to the county level and the overcrowding there. In fact, I believe the governor has put another $250 million in the budget to help with the overcrowding and to build more jail facilities. But the most important component of that, which is what I think the opponents were trying to address, and they may not have said it well, when people go to jail for a crime, we're trying to rehabilitate them so they don't do it again. When they go to county, we do have to put in more programs to reduce the amount of recidivism. When you go to prison, a lot of people get a PhD in how to commit a crime. And so sending people to prison without any type of mechanism to rehabilitate them will only make them better at their craft and further victimize the most vulnerable in our community. And it's, as a great man once told me, which I hope we would do more of, he criticized the legislature by saying the legislature creates laws, they don't really create solutions. We really need to focus on how to solve this, and the solving this is dealing with the perpetrators and getting them out of that business, but also making sure that we can figure out a way that people who are victimized, we can get some type of restitution, which I believe needs to be done. But I also know when you send someone to prison, just as I put in a bill for whether or not you could pay your alimony and child support payments while you're in prison, well, you can't. You can't make a dime while you're in prison. And so to have that build up over time didn't make any sense. What made sense is to get people out of prison and become productive citizens so they can make restitution, not only to the elderly, but to this community, and to give back what they've taken from us. And so while I definitely value everything that you said, and you're absolutely right that we need to do more, we need to do a comprehensive look, as one of my esteemed colleagues had said earlier, to really address it and to solve this problem in the big picture. And this may be a component of it. We just need to work together to come up with that. And with that, I'm recommending a no vote today. Madam. And no one's made a motion, so.
May, Can I make a closing comment?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I know I appreciate what you said, Chairman, and the members and the concerns that you raised, but I want to bring your focus back on the intent of this legislation. We're talking about those individuals who are preying upon our most vulnerable population, the elders. And we're talking about financial abuse. And we're talking about the victims that are victimized, who live on these limited, lifelong time savings. And where do they go? They're looking for victims. Restitution is what we're talking about in this legislation. Yes, I totally agree with you. We want to make individuals, even those who are in prison system for the crimes they committed, we want to rehabilitate them. But this bill is not about rehabilitating. Well, English is my second language. Okay, so it's not about the perpetuators' rehabilitation. This bill is giving the victims the restitution, and you all agree. And I think, Mr. Melendez, thank you very much for your comments. We need to keep focus on the intent of the bill, and we are giving, through this bill, the judges the option to send those criminals to state prison rather than just to county jail. So it's an option we're providing. This is one of the ways that we can help the victims. So thank you for your consideration. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
The motion is due pass to the Aging and Long-Term Care Committee. Jones Sawyer?
No.
Jones Sawyer, no. Melendez? Melendez, aye. Lackey? Lackey, aye. Lopez? Lopez, no. Lowe? Lowe, no. Quirk?
No.
Quirk, no. Santiago? Santiago not voting.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kim, the measure fails, but the committee is always willing to work with you on any measure like this in the future.
Thank you. May I ask for reconsideration, sir?
If there's no objection, we can do it by unanimous consent.